One royal birthday candle could snuff out a century-old comfort zone because on July 22, Prince George turns 12, and the moment the clock strikes midnight palace tradition is poised to rip him from his mother's protective orbit. That single fact electrifies every corridor from Kensington Palace to Eton College this week. For most families, a 12th birthday means video game upgrades and chocolate cake. For the heir behind only one beating heart, his father's, it signals a hard pivot from childhood coddle to dynastic duty. The question slicing through royal breakfast tables is brutal in its clarity. How much separation can Catherine, still fighting her way back from cancer, bear before her son is surrendered to protocol? A flight plan written in fear. Long before George took his first wobbly steps at St. Mary's Hospital, courtiers drafted the aviation rule that now hovers over him. From age 12, no two direct heirs may share the same aircraft without special permission from the sovereign's private secretary. The logic is unsentimental. One freak crack of lightning, one wayward bird strike, and the crown must still rest on a living head. Charles obeyed it, William obeyed it, now the rule points at George like a runway centerline. Picture the scene already penciled into palace diaries, a future short haul to Balmoral. George in row 3 flanked by equerries, his siblings chattering in row 12 beside Mum, Dad on a separate jet altogether. Catherine will wave across a VIP lounge, smile for one sterile photograph, then spend 90 airborne minutes replaying worst-case headlines that will, God forbid, never print. This is royal motherhood in its most surgical form. Boarding school battlefront. But airspace is only the first frontier. September 2026 lurks like a date stamped in ice, decision point for secondary education. William wants Eton ancient cloisters, 1440 charter, endless cricket lawns. George already strolls distance-wise past the stone lions each Sunday, eyes wide at the sheer Hogwarts meets Oxbridge scale. Catherine, by contrast, hears echoing dormitories, remembers icy press lenses, and tastes bile. Her own school days at Marlborough were happy enough, but the notion of parting with her firstborn while chemo scar tissue still tightens across her ribs feels, she confides to friends, like amputating a limb to save the body politic. Aides whisper that household debate now follows a choreographed loop. William's case, Eton shapes kings, shared lineage with his classmates builds discreet alliances, and Harry's rebellious arc proves you can't bubble wrap a Windsor forever. Catherine's case, the media microscope of social media era is deadly sharper than in the 90s. Weekly pap shots of rugby bruises or term report leaks will haunt a boy who already shoulders the world's expectations. George's tiny voice, overheard straight from the pantry door, "Can I still see Louis on weekends?" The clock and the cancer. Catherine's medical team, cautious but optimistic, predict another 6 months before she's declared in fragile remission. Travel restrictions, immune system lulls, and fatigue spikes do not marry well with Eton's full boarding regimen. William argues that the couple can rent a grace and favour cottage minutes from the playing fields. George boards on weekdays, dines at home on Saturday nights, sails back by chapel bells. The Duchess bristles. That's commuting, not mothering. Somewhere between their positions hangs the question no one dares voice. Does the monarchy's stability outrank a mother's trauma recovery? Shadows of history. Courtiers reach for precedent. In 1936, 12-year-old Princess Elizabeth was told she must shadow her father around quarters because suddenly abdication, she was heir. Charles spent his 12th birthday paraded past Gordonstown's drafty windows, lonely and seasick from endless North Sea sailing drills. William marked his 12th by spending the summer at Balmoral, stepping onto coded flight rosters labeled Priority Protect. Each generation absorbs the bruise. Yet seldom has there been a future queen consort simultaneously nursing chemo fatigue and maternal dread. The trust fracture. Layered atop protocol sit fresh splinters of sibling distrust. Montecito memoirs still bleed in Kensington corridors. Catherine would sooner swallow glass than read tweets dissecting George's dorm etiquette authored by anonymous classmates hustling screenshots for clicks. William, ever strategic, counters that social storm builds resilience. The country's next monarch cannot quiver at TikTok trends. Friends say arguments end with Catherine pressing fingertips to her temples, William pacing garden gravel until midnight, and neither winning because the calendar will choose for them. Inside the war room. Down a lamplit passage nicknamed the War Room, 3 senior aides juggle scenarios. Full Eton, George boards, Catherine intensifies charity work to fill the silence, William schedules fortnightly father-son rambles on the long walk. Day school compromise, a top London independent with daily chauffeured drop-offs, Charlotte likely follows, tabloids camp outside iron gates by dawn. Windsor bubble, George educated on the royal estate by elite tutors, optics of privilege skyrocket, socialization crater feared. None sparkle. One aide murmurs, there's no good answer, only less painful ones. George's whispered wish. Sources close to the Cambridges, a name friends still use privately, say George recently asked his mother whether becoming king means you stop having sleepovers. Catherine reportedly knelt, hugged him tight, and said, "Not for a long time, darling." The truth: the countdown hits 0 in 14 days, at exactly midnight on the 22nd of July. From that moment, insurance underwriters, military liaisons, and aviation officials will treat the boy like a glass Faberge egg. Sleepovers. Only after a threat assessment. Childhood. Signed off by committee. The security rehearsal. Later this month a dry-run escort will take place, George driven alone in a lowland armoured Jaguar from Windsor to RAF Northolt, strapped into a jump seat on a short hop to Scotland. 2 hours on the ground, hot chocolate with Granny Carol at Birkhall Annex, flight back. No William, no Charlotte, no Louis. Catherine will wait airside, Heart performing its own private airshow. The exercise is meant to familiarize George with solo travel. Cynics call it indoctrination. What if the worst? Royal scenario planners privately game the nightmare, simultaneous accident involving William and Charlotte. George would be whisked to a secure Scottish castle, sworn privy councillors would convene via encrypted tablets, and Catherine, if physically able, would assume regency until her son turned 18. The fact those documents sit ready, locked in red leather, explains why a dozen greysuits insist the tradition cannot bend to maternal heartache. Monarchies, they say, are forged in contingency, not comfort. Possible compromise on the horizon. Yet there is chatter of a pilot program. George boards part-time at Eton for Year 9, then re-evaluates annually. The idea, floated by a senior royal school governor, reportedly sparked Catherine's first genuine half-smile in months. William didn't hate it, according to a footman who overheard an exchange. The clock, though, ticks thunderously, application forms close in spring. The public calculus. Every decision is PR napalm. Choose Eton and critics howl elitism, pick a West London day school and newspapers camp at the gates, homeschool within Windsor and the Republicans declare monarchy a cloistered relic. Aides craft statements that read educational journey and following guidance, yet nothing will mute the decibel level. Catherine once quipped, "Privacy is a myth, we're just choosing which myth to live." A mother's plea. Insiders say Catherine's most potent argument landed one quiet evening. She placed her palm over William's heart and asked, "If I relapse, would you still send him away?" William reportedly answered by staring at the floor for a long 10 seconds. No further comment leaked. That silence is now the loudest sound between Kensington red brick walls. Countdown to 12. As July sun bakes London parks, George counts basketball shots, oblivious to aviation rosters printed in triplicate. Charlotte fusses over a homemade birthday banner, Louis sneaks icing. Catherine supervises, but every so often her gaze drifts to an outlook beyond the window, toward a sky where soon one jet will carry her son alone. When the clock strikes 12 on the 22nd of July, protocols etched in decades of royal ink will activate. William will likely pour scotch, Catherine herbal tea. Somewhere in their shared silence, they'll map the year ahead, half-term hugs, Easter visits, and whichever decision leaves the fewest scars. Because if monarchy is theatre, childhood departures are its darkest scene, performed without rehearsal, lit by centuries of precedent, applauded by millions who will never feel the hollow it carves into a mother's chest.